Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to Black and Azul Live post-game after the San Jose Earthquakes lose to Sporting KC on penalties 3-0 after a 3-3 game that went to extra time. It really had everything except for a red card and except for the referee actually granting a penalty in the game. Notably, Chris Wondolowski scoring deep into the match in the 97th minute of this game. So much to talk about, so much to discuss, so much to chit chat about here. I'm joined by the rest of the team: Alex Morgan, Jamon Moore, and Joel Soria. If you're just joining us, we provide pre and post game live coverage of the San Jose Earthquakes, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, wherever you are. And I hope that you are staying safe, wearing your masks, washing your hands as we are in the midst of this pandemic. Joel Soria, to begin, I mean, this thing had everything this afternoon.
Certainly did, Charles. Good evening to everyone watching us. Look, I personally think that it's almost as if this game deserves a book to be written about it. It really did have everything, so many highs and lows. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, not a victory for the San Jose Earthquakes, who, in my opinion, deserve a round of an applause. They, as we know, were in a very, very deep hole and were able to overturn all of these obstacles and find their way into the MLS Cup playoffs, go up against the number one seed in Sporting Kansas City, albeit without an Alan Pulido. And tonight they demonstrated that warrior heart, that Goonie magic, that never say die aura that they've always represented. Truly a fascinating game. Obviously, for many Earthquake fans, a heartbreaking loss, given that it was lost at in a penalty shootout. And the Earthquakes season comes to an end. A lot of discussion, obviously, about that. But all in all, I thought this was an instant classic, without a doubt.
Yeah, so many momentum swings. I completely agree with you, Joel, about a book. Was texting lots of friends, including you guys, during this game, and the Twitter sphere talking about this game was a lot of fun to enjoy as well. You almost didn't want it to end, and you almost kind of think to yourself, well, is there a second leg? Why isn't there a second leg to this? Kind of going back to the traditional format, obviously not during these very challenging times, but it almost did deserve extra time and then into penalties, which obviously was heartbreaking. And then you think to yourself, it could deserve a second leg. Alex Morgan, your thoughts on this evening?
Yeah, Charles, I don't know if my heart could take a second leg. It was beaten pretty fast there for the last hour of that one. And look, I'm not even angry. I'm not even disappointed. I think I'm proud of the way that team played and represented San Jose. And I think that they will be too. They showed heart. They showed fortitude. They showed grit. They showed intensity. I think that was a performance that they should take pride in, even though they didn't win. And look, my brain tells me that Sporting Kansas City are deserved winners just because they have Tim Melia. And Tim Melia is the greatest penalty saver of all time in Major League Soccer. I think he's 6-0 now in penalty shootouts in Major League Soccer. He's saved now more than 50% of penalties he's faced. You know, the Quakes missing all three is still a little disappointing, but there's only so much you can do when you're up against a goalkeeper of that quality. You know, my brain tells me that, but on the other hand, my heart tells me that the San Jose Earthquakes deserve to win this game, just because of the grit and the passion that they showed, and the way Chris Wondolowski scored that 97th minute equalizer after he had missed that chance, that golden chance that Melia saved earlier in the game, that looked like it was gonna knock the San Jose Earthquakes out of the playoffs. That was a bit of cosmic justice, redemption for Wondolowski. But in the end, I think Melia's just got to be the man of the match. He was too good.
Yeah, Jamon Moore, in the pregame show, you were talking about set pieces, cutbacks, and also tweeting the entire game about cutbacks and Cristian Espinosa and his strength there, right? The record signing for this San Jose team. The Quakes obviously conceded 2 goals off of set pieces, which is also Kansas City's strength. We clearly talked about that in the pregame show and what made that Kansas City team be one of the worst teams in the West to the best team in that first place spot and being able to host that game today.
I was telling some people that the first half felt a bit like an analyst's fever dream, because everything that you look at with a particular team, you boil it down to a half and then an entire game, and it all kind of comes true. We saw the entire season of the San Jose Earthquakes play itself out over 120 minutes plus penalty kicks, because, and you know, it had the set piece failures, it had the cutbacks from Cristian Espinosa, it had a Wondo header for a finish and a Goonie magic. It had literally just about everything that this team was good at, except for one thing. They made all their penalties during the season, 7 of them, in fact, but could get none past Tim Melia. In fact, Alanis stepping up to take the first penalty. Alanis is a pretty prolific penalty taker, one that you would expect him to be able to put in the net. Maybe Tim Melia slightly off the line there. There was, I think, a bit of a question that, and I don't know how much they looked at it from a VAR side, but overall, you know, if you can't put one past Tim Melia in the penalties, you don't deserve to walk away with the victory, despite the fact that there are a lot of moral victories, I think, in the game. This team has to figure out, just like Sporting Kansas City did in the offseason, how to survive set pieces. They have struggled with this ever since Matias Almeyda has come to town, and it needs to be dealt with. There's going to need to be some off-season moves, and that's an area that I believe if they focus on, we'll see a team that's better than an 8 seed next year.
And just to add some color about the penalty shootout, Evan Ream has a great thread about it on Twitter about all the stats. You know, going in, I think we knew that the Quakes were underdogs given Melia's competence. And also because I don't think the Quakes have ever won a penalty shootout in the MLS playoffs. According to Evan's thread, he says they're 0-6, I think 0-7 now. So certainly that's a trend that is disappointing for this club.
Yeah, when you see Alanis step up and miss that first penalty after the first one was dispatched perfectly by Johnny Russell, I mean, you know, you kind of thought the warning signs may have been there. And the body language from the goalkeeper, Marcinkowski, as well, in some aspect, and then missing that second penalty with Jackson Yueill, you kind of thought to yourself, it's probably not going to happen today. Let's focus and shift now on to Chris Wondolowski, who scored that 97th minute goal. I just want to pull up a quick tweet about the timing of that goal from Matt Doyle at MLSsoccer.com. He says 2 minutes, 14 seconds of celebration and 40 seconds of time wasting equals 2 minutes and 54 seconds beyond the original 4 minutes. Wando's header hit the back of the net 2 minutes, 48 seconds in. Basically, according to Matt Doyle's math there, that would be 6 seconds in between those two times. But let's back it out here and go and zoom up to 37,000 feet about Chris Wondolowski, a person obviously that is well loved by this club, someone who is the man and is a legend, not just a legend within the club, but within Major League Soccer. And we talk about him every show. We talk about him all the time here. But Peter Vermees at the end there had some comments about Wondo. There's been speculation about his future. Joel, where does this stand right now in terms of where Wondo is and reading the body language and what you saw? And obviously he was emotional after the game. I think he looked up to the sky multiple times. You know, you could see it, but here comes Matias Almeyda. So we'll have to come back to Wondo. And here's the coach. We'll chat about him right after Matias speaks.
We are joined by head coach Matias Almeyda. We'll start by taking a few questions in English and then a few more in Spanish. Only responses to questions asked in English will be translated. Let's start with Robert Jonas.
Thank you, and thank you, Coach. After losing on penalties, which is never easy to accept, what are your emotions right now And what did you tell your players after such a difficult loss?
Siempre es difícil perder por penales y difícil de aceptar. ¿Cuáles son tus emociones ahora y qué le dijiste a tus jugadores después de la derrota?
En principio, buenas noches.
Firstly, good evening.
Quisiera felicitar a Kansas porque pasó.
I'd like to congratulate Kansas for making it through.
Lo que le dije a los jugadores es lo que siento.
What I told the players is what I feel.
Siento que entregamos hasta la última gota de sudor,
I feel that we gave even our last drop of sweat
hasta el último segundo.
till the last second.
Fue un año positivo.
It was a positive year.
Competimos en 2 torneos y en los 2 competimos.
We were in 2 tournaments, and in both of those tournaments we competed.
En un momento parecía que San José estaba muerto y resurgió.
For moments, it looked like San Jose was dead, and they came back.
Y hoy un partido contra el primero del grupo.
And today in a game against the team that's first place in the conference,
En los 120 minutos hicimos un excelente partido.
throughout 120 minutes, we played an excellent match.
El fútbol tiene estas cosas de penales
Football has these things in penalties.
y a veces te juega a favor y otras veces en contra por virtud del rival, en este caso de su arquero.
Sometimes it plays in your favor, sometimes against you because of virtue from the opponent, in this case with their goalkeeper.
Pero le he agradecido a los jugadores los 2 años que llevo con ellos
But I've thanked the players for both the years I've had with them,
y les agradezco este año de dificultad para cada ser humano,
and I thank them for this difficult year that was hard for every human,
porque siento que he sacado lo mejor de cada uno de ellos.
because I feel I've gotten the best out of all of them,
Y ellos han hecho que yo me convierta en un mejor entrenador.
and they've made me become a better coach.
Thank you, Matias. We'll go over to Alicia Rodriguez.
Thank you. Matias, I wanted to ask about the sequence just at the end of regulation. Wondo had a shot saved by Amelia, and then Sporting score. It looked like they were going to win, and then Wondo ends up coming up with the big equalizer to take you to extra time. What was it like living through that 8-minute stretch and having the highs and lows in those moments when you thought your season was going to end, and then you got another 30 minutes and penalties to work with?
Quería preguntar sobre la secuencia de cuando se terminaron los 90 minutos. En el tiempo adicional, el arquero de Kansas atajó dos pelotas muy buenas y después Kansas metió el gol. Y después San José llegó a empatarlo cuando parecía que ya se terminaba nuestra temporada. ¿Qué sentías en esos momentos altos y bajos?
No, tranquilidad.
I felt calm.
Cuando el equipo que dirige uno produce jugadas en ofensiva frente al arquero,
When the team you coach is producing a good plays in front of their goalkeeper,
con elaboración de juego,
with building up the play,
sabía que en algún momento iba a llegar el empate, porque en definitiva íbamos ganando el partido.
we knew the tie was coming because beforehand we were winning the game.
Nos repusimos rápido en el primer gol,
We got back into the first goal.
nos repusimos rápido en el segundo gol,
We got back into it after the second goal.
y nunca dejamos de combatir hasta el tercer gol, faltando 5 segundos.
And we never stopped battling, even after the third goal, with only 5 minutes to go.
Ese es el amor que
5
le he
seconds.
pedido a los jugadores,
That's the love that I asked the players of,
la pasión de no rendirse nunca
the passion to never give up,
y de transpirar la camiseta hasta el último segundo que juegan.
and putting sweat on your jersey until the last second that you play.
Entonces no puedo estar más que agradecido a cada uno de ellos.
So I can't be any more grateful towards all of them.
Después, el mejor jugador de la cancha creo que va a ser su arquero,
I think the best player on the field was probably the goalkeeper,
descontando los penales.
not counting the PKs.
Y cuando un arquero es figura es porque el otro equipo tuvo muchas acciones de gol como las que tuvimos nosotros.
And when the goalkeeper is the standout player, it's because the team had many good chances like we had.
Thank you, Matias. Jamon Moore.
Hi, Coach. Good evening. Every coach, I imagine, has a different feeling about every team that they coach. This season, in the middle of a pandemic, was a very up and down season for you. When you think about this particular team, what is it that stands out about this team as compared to previous teams that you've coached? What will you remember them for 10 years from now?
Es que él se imagina que cada entrenador, que en cada equipo que está un entrenador, se siente diferente, tiene una diferente idea del equipo, cómo se siente, y después de este año tan complicado, especialmente por la pandemia, ¿qué es lo que te vas a acordar desde este equipo en 10 años?
Bueno, en principio me voy a acordar del cambio futbolístico que han realizado cada uno de ellos.
First, I'll think about the change in football in each and every one of them.
Me voy a recordar que por primera vez en mi historia de fútbol no había pasado por momentos de dificultad como el que pasamos.
I'll think that in my career in football, I've never gone through such difficult moments like the ones we have.
Lo tomé como un gran aprendizaje.
I took that as a huge lesson.
Voy a recordar cada entrenamiento y cada vez que preparamos un partido, la inteligencia de ellos.
I'll remember each training session and each time we were getting ready for a game, I'll remember their intelligence.
Pero sin ninguna duda voy a recordar este año como un año trágico para el mundo.
But no doubt that when I remember this year, I'll remember it as a tragic year for the world.
Y un agradecido a la vida que pude trabajar de lo que me gusta en medio de una pandemia por todo lo que ha hecho la liga.
And I'm grateful to life that I was able to work doing what I enjoy to do throughout a pandemic, thanks to the league.
Okay, we'll take two more in English, starting with Alex Morgan.
Hi, Matías. Good evening. Thanks for speaking with us tonight. Shea Salinas and Chris Wondolowski both scored goals. They're obviously two veteran players who mean a lot to the club. How much did they help the team? What did they give the team tonight? And given that they're both out of contract at the end of the season, where do you see their futures?
Shea y Wondo, los dos marcaron goles hoy, son dos jugadores que son veteranos. Esos dos jugadores que le dieron hoy al equipo y qué significa lo que ellos dieron al equipo, y los dos son jugadores que se quedan sin contrato a fin de año, si todavía se sabe algo de eso.
En principio le voy a repetir lo que les dije a todos ellos recién en el vestuario.
At first, I'll repeat what I told all of them right now in the locker room.
Me gustó ver el crecimiento de los jóvenes.
I enjoyed watching growth from the youngsters.
Y disfruté mucho de ver a los grandes con ganas de seguir creciendo.
And I really enjoyed watching the older guys with a desire to keep growing.
Con una excelente predisposición.
With excellent willingness.
Con una excelente entrega.
Excellent delivery.
Y con un camino que pretendíamos hacer.
And the path that we were looking to do.
Como familia deportiva.
As a sporting family.
Ellos han aportado su experiencia.
They've given their experience.
Aportaron cosas importantes.
They've given important things.
Y al igual que todos sus compañeros.
Just like all their teammates.
Hicieron un lindo grupo.
They formed a nice group.
Y los pasos de los entrenadores por los clubes, por lo menos lo que me toca a mí.
And the coming and going for coaches through clubs, at least what I've experienced.
Es dejar una parte humana.
Is to leave a humane aspect.
Que supere ampliamente a la parte deportiva.
That is superior by a large margin than the football part.
Y creo que nosotros en ese sentido lo hemos logrado.
And I think we've achieved that in that sense.
Gracias a ellos.
Thanks to them.
Thank you, Matías. Last question in English to Harold Gutman.
Hi, thanks for taking our questions. Set pieces have been an issue throughout the season. Is there anything you saw in today's match that caused you more difficulty with the corner kicks?
Las pelotas paradas han sido un problema a lo largo de la temporada. Si viste algo hoy que te dio más dificultad hoy en los corners.
No, creo que es una gran verdad.
I think that's a great truth.
Hemos trabajado mucho tiempo con respecto a la pelota parada a favor y en contra.
We've worked a long time on set pieces, attacking and defending.
Pero hay una realidad en el fútbol. Si tenés rivales que te miden 10 centímetros más, seguramente te ganen de cabeza.
But there's reality in football. If there's the opposition who's 10 centimeters higher than you, taller than you are, then they're going to beat you in the air.
En cada gol hay virtud del rival.
In each goal, there's a virtue from the opponent.
Y hay alguna dificultad nuestra.
And there's also difficulties on our part.
Thank you, Matias. We will now take 3 questions in Spanish, starting with Carlos Yustiz. Okay, let's go to Joel Soria.
Hola Matías, buenas tardes. Le mando un abrazo. Obviamente en septiembre creo que muy poca gente creía que este San José podía llegar a donde llegó hoy, esta noche. Pelearon 90 minutos, pelearon 2 periodos de extra tiempo a morir, dejaron, como usted dice, dejaron todo en la cancha y no se dio en los penales. Reconociendo que ha sido un año muy frágil, muy duro, ¿cómo se plantea usted y su cuerpo técnico para llevar a este equipo al otro nivel en un 2021 que quizás podrá ofrecer más estabilidad? Gracias.
Sí, creo que el año fue un año complicado por este tema de la pandemia. Nosotros tuvimos la posibilidad de jugar el torneo de Orlando, donde no podíamos entrenar en nuestra casa, nos tuvimos que ir antes a Orlando. Hicimos un gran torneo, cubriendo las expectativas, las nuestras y las de mucha gente, que por ahí nos veía lejos de esa competencia. Y bueno, cuando arrancó el torneo, que continuó, mejor dicho, este torneo, tuvimos el momento de dificultad, donde nos metían muchos goles, donde no podíamos ganar. Y fue un tiempo de enseñanza, de aprendizaje. Pero bueno, por eso remarco la fortaleza del grupo, este tipo de mentalidad que consideramos que fuimos cambiando entre todos. Y creo que en definitiva cierra un buen año por la imagen que da el equipo, porque vos te podés ir de un torneo como el torneo pasado, que los últimos 10, 8 partidos no pudimos ganar un partido más, por eso no entramos a playoff. Y este torneo un año que mejoró el equipo. Prácticamente con los mismos jugadores mejoró futbolísticamente, mejoró con respecto a estar concentrados, mejoró como grupo. Entonces no deja de ser un año de crecimiento, más allá de que nos quedemos con las ganas de poder seguir en el torneo. Y bueno, ahora es momento, en lo personal, de tomarme unos días. Tengo que analizar muchas cosas. Hablaré con mi familia y veré lo que me depara el futuro.
Thank you, Matias. Let's go back to Carlos Yustiz.
Matías, buenas noches. Solo tuve un problema técnico. Me habías mencionado antes, tal vez lo contestaste un poquito en esta última, pero me habías mencionado antes que había ese sentimiento también de que esta era, como era una temporada complicada, había ese sentimiento también de que ya quería que se terminara el año, que esto pasara a segundo término. ¿Cómo te vas ya en ese sentido, sabiendo que cerraste este ciclo de esta temporada, además con un trabajo aceptable, sabiendo todas las circunstancias que se presentaron?
Me voy tranquilo porque creo que dimos hasta lo que pensábamos que no podíamos dar. Me voy tranquilo porque hoy me quedé feliz de ver cómo jugaron los jugadores al fútbol, cómo intentaron, cómo entregaron todo. No solamente este partido, sino desde hace un mes y medio que vienen jugando bien al fútbol. Y me quedo tranquilo, me quedo como vacío, digamos, de saber que difícil que se pudiera dar más. Creo que todos hemos dado al máximo. Entonces, hemos luchado con nuestras armas de diferentes maneras. Y me quedo tranquilo. Creo que no deja de ser un año positivo, porque aquel que salga segundo va a terminar igual que nosotros, es lo mismo, ¿no? En el fútbol el éxito lo tiene el que gana y los demás quedaremos ahí. Ahora hay maneras de retirarte de un torneo. Y la manera de la cual nos retiramos de nosotros fue una manera muy digna, una manera de combatir, de no rendirse nunca. Y bueno, después podés seguir en un torneo o no por el tema de los penales. A veces juega a favor y a veces en contra. Pero en líneas generales, soy un agradecido a estos jugadores.
Thank you, Matias. One last question from Carlos Ramirez.
Profe, un abrazo. Carlos Ramírez de Telemundo, aquí en el área de la Bahía. Un fuerte abrazo.
Un abrazo, Carlos.
Profe, quiero devolverme a la respuesta que le dio Joel hace un rato recién, donde decía que tenía que hablar con su familia y tomar una serie de decisiones. Me preguntaba a qué se refería, hacia su futuro, y si nos puede contar un poco qué plan tiene personalmente para esta temporada muerta tan extraña, donde más que fichajes o cualquier cosa, la humanidad espera es una vacuna. Gracias.
Sí, en principio todos esperamos esa vacuna y que realmente sea una vacuna que nos haga bien y no que nos haga una nariz detrás de la oreja. El cuidado, la salud. Pero bueno, uno también, hay un momento en el cual yo voy a pensar en lo que es mi vida personal. Voy a pensar bien qué es lo que deseo y lo que quiero. Si bien tengo cosas definidas en mi mente, pero necesito tomarme mis 3, 4 días para saber dónde quiero ir, qué quiero hacer de mi futuro, y necesito pensar. Hasta hoy no pensaba en nada porque estaba en campeonato, y a partir de mañana empieza mi cuenta regresiva a nivel mental, analizando diferentes situaciones. Como siempre lo he hecho, manejándome con toda mi sinceridad y mi corazón, que lo pondré en la mano. Bueno, ahí veré cómo sigue.
All right. Thank you very much, Matias and Augustine, and congratulations on the great season.
Les quiero agradecer a todos por el año que tuvimos.
I wanted to thank all of you for the year we've had.
Les quiero agradecer por cada pregunta que me han hecho.
I wanted to thank you for each question that you've asked.
Porque más allá que a veces hay preguntas que no me gusten, no dejan de hacerme crecer.
Because even though there might be questions that I don't like sometimes, you still
Entonces,
keep making me grow.
Ustedes no dejan de ser culpables de mi crecimiento.
So you guys are still guilty of my growth.
Gracias y que tengan un buen año.
Thank you and have a good rest of your year.
There you have the manager, Matias Almeyda, speaking after the Quakes lose after a 3-3 tie and then 3-0 in penalties. We will have Chris Wondolowski and Shea Salinas. He said we were in 2 tournaments where we competed. He said football has these things in penalties. Sometimes it plays into your favor. Sometimes it doesn't. But I think the players, I thank them for this beautiful year that is very hard for every human. He alluded to that the players have made him a better coach. After Kansas City had scored in the 90th minute, he said he felt calm when the team you coach produces good plays in front of their goalkeeper. He knew the tie was coming. And they never stop battling, and with passions, they never give up, putting sweat on your jersey until the last minute you play. He thought the best player on the pitch was Tim Melia, not because of the penalties, but because of the saves that he made. Jamon Moore asked him a question about what he would see 10 years on after this game and after this season. He said he would think about the change in the players, the growth of the players in each one of them. He said he'll take this year as a huge lesson. He said he'll remember the training sessions, their intelligence, and he'll also remember this year as a tragic year for the world, and grateful to do what he does thanks to the league. And he said that he also achieved with not just playing football, but the humane aspect of that is superior to the football part, and he believes that he's achieved that. A little bit more from Matias Almeyda to come here as well. In the second part of the questioning, I'm joined by the rest of the team, Jamon Moore, Joel Soria, Alex Morgan, that were all able to ask questions in that press conference. But coming to you, Joel Soria, on his thoughts after that, seemed a little bit relieved, but Matias Almeyda always has a lot to say. And wanted to hear a little bit more about your thoughts on what he had to say there.
The biggest takeaway is that he's put a big question mark next to his name, next to his future, I should say, with the San Jose Earthquakes. He said that he needs to take some days off, talk to his family, and see what the future has in store for him. After I asked him my questions, he responded with that. So right after I asked him that, Carlos Ramirez from Telemundo actually had the privilege of following up, and he wanted Matias to, talk a little bit more about those questioning, his questioning of his stay in San Jose. And he said, I quote, "I need to take 3-4 days off to see where I want to go, know what I want to do with my future." He says he hasn't really thought about his next step. He didn't make it crystal clear that he wants to stay in San Jose or that he's thinking about 2021 with the Earthquakes. Again, a coach of his magnitude has all the freedom and ability in the world to question what project he wants to take on next, to put the organization that he represents on the back foot, and to have this front office or the ownership really rethink how they want to invest in this Matias Almeyda era, which, in all honesty, after what they showed today, I would say has been pretty positive.
I think after this press conference and after this game, Joel, all of the pressure turns on Jesse Fioranelli, because the Quakes are trending upwards under Matias Almeyda. I think it's fair to say that Matias Almeyda has turned the Quakes into an exciting team and ultimately a successful team that's able to make the playoffs. And I think that all Quakes fans would like to see him back in San Jose next year. So it's up to Jesse Fioranelli to be able to keep him in San Jose. And I think a big part of that is going to be speaking with the ownership group and convincing them to invest in this team. And if I'm John Fisher, I think I would invest on the basis of that performance. And then also keeping Chris Wondolowski and Shea Salinas in San Jose, both of whom we're going to be speaking to very shortly.
Scored in the 97th minute of the game today to make it 3-3 to force extra time and then penalties. Here's the club captain.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for speaking with us tonight. That was one of the craziest games of soccer that I have ever watched. How did you experience that game? What are the emotions for you right now?
Well, spent. I think that's the best emotion to describe it right now. It was, I think to a man, we all left out there 120 minutes. And to be honest, I think both teams did. I think it was one of the most cleanest physical, playoff games. I thought both teams came to tackle, but, still out there played the game. We're connecting passes. Do I wish we won? Yes, absolutely. And, I think that we did a lot of correct things and things that, we're proud of. But in the long run, at the end, we didn't do enough. And, I think that's the part that is a bummer.
Wando, let's go to Jamon Moore.
Hi, Chris. Congratulations on the season itself and for the goal there at the end of regulation. I'm curious about the fan situation. It was, I believe, the first game that you guys have played since March in front of any fans at all. And I know a lot of people aren't sure whether or not that's a good thing, but in the moment, while you're on the pitch and while the game is going on, what was it like to finally play a game again in front of fans as a player?
It was reinvigorating. I think that I know that these rules are in place, and I appreciate it because that's the necessity that it's with this pandemic, and I think that it's again necessity, something that we absolutely need to have. But that being said, I think that it was only like what was a third full, half full. I'm not sure exact numbers, but it was amazing just to hear a crowd, hear the atmosphere. It motivates you. It you can't help it. It just is that extra drive, extra energy. And to be honest, for myself, it doesn't matter if you're rooting for me or against me. I love a good atmosphere, and so I think that it just kind of hypes you up a little bit more.
Thank you. We'll go over to Carlos Ramirez.
Hi, Chris. Carlos Ramirez, NBC Bay Area and Telemundo. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Just want to double check with you because Peter Vermes said on the post-game interview on FS1 that he asked you if you were going to come back for a year, and you said yes. Just wanted to get confirmation from you if you are indeed going to come back for one more year. And Matias Almeida just said that he's going to think about his future for 3 or 4 days. Has he given you guys any indication that he might not come back? Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't speak for Matias. He's made it seem that he's all in and wants to, is going to continue progressing this team and, making it the standard, play the standard that it can and should be. So I can't necessarily speak on his part. My situation, I did talk to Peter. He asked if I was done. I don't think I'm done. I love it. I can't get enough of it. Passion, it's in me. It's in my blood. And so I want to continue to play. I don't have anything in line yet. Haven't discussed any numbers, and I definitely never want to be a burden on the Quakes, but also want to make sure, see all the options, see what's out there. And there's, I think that the Quakes are doing some amazing things, and I want to make sure that the pieces can be moved to continue to make this team to grow and continue to be better. And so, that's kind of my long-winded story. Right now, I would love to play next year. That being said, there is absolutely nothing. I haven't even discussed it, to be honest. I've never discussed the number even with Jesse. And I know that the door's open, but I was fully committed to putting everything I have into this year, and that I did. So now I need to reevaluate. I just want to reevaluate everything. My personal life, my life where I want to be, and then also, but especially where the club is, and see the direction that's going.
Thank you, Wando. We'll go over to Joel Soria.
Hey, Chris. I noticed on my television when they showed you right after the penalty shootout, you looked obviously very emotional, and I know that you wear your heart on your sleeve. And I'm sure that the defeat was a painful one, but I almost saw tears in your eyes. I just would want to know a little bit more of what you were thinking at the moment.
Yeah, I was thinking that in the last 12 years, I've made the playoffs 4 times, and you got to cherish these opportunities. I know some teams, it's a given for them. They know each year they're going to be competing, and it's how many playoff games they're going to win. And I think I'm completely jealous of that. And it was one of those where the emotions just got the best of me. I was gutted because you put so much into a year, especially this year with so much that went on, and it comes to an abrupt end. It's a gut punch. It sucks, and so it was just one of those where just kind of all the emotions kind of flooded in at once, where the realization that all the hard work that for the last 365 days, all the couple preseasons, whether Cancun, Orlando, all that's done.
Thank you, Wando. Robert Jonas.
Thank you. And yeah, I think we've both seen these playoff losses over these last 12 years, and I know how challenging that is. And I did want to kind of follow up on a couple of the questions about these next plans for you. Obviously, the specter of retirement always is going to be there. And when you say looking at your options, Matías definitely has big plans for this team, and if it turns out you're not part of those plans or you're not a focus of those plans, would you consider looking elsewhere to play? And then kind of as follow-up, why one more year when maybe 10 more years could be in Wando's future?
I will speak on that last part. I think that I am going to go into, I don't know when retirement's going to come. I'm now certain it's just going to come and hit me like a ton of bricks, and it's it's always going to be a tough decision. So that's why you never know the future. You never know what entails. You never know what's going to happen. So when you're old like I am, that's question's inevitable. You always ask when the end is coming or what you're going to do after, and it's one of those questions where I don't know how to answer it, because I want to keep playing, and I will always want to keep playing when I can help the team. And again, when I'm part of the Earthquakes plans, it doesn't have to be a main role. I know where I am. I know who I am right now in my career and at this moment. And again, it's not a numbers game. It's not a a minutes thing. To be honest, I want to see how we want to win, or what we're going to do to become a contender every single year. And I think that's the main question that I have.
Thank you, Wanda. We'll just take a few more, starting with Alicia Rodriguez.
Thank you. Chris, would you consider this season a success, both for the team and for you personally? And where does this season, I know you've just finished it, but where does this season kind of rank, compared to other seasons with San Jose in your career?
Oh, that's a good one. I think that, yeah, it was a success. Again, as I mentioned, last 12 years of my career, this is only my fourth time making playoffs. And, I think tonight we showed that we belong here and that we can contend with any teams out there, especially the number one at their place. And, I think that it was, a bit unfortunate. Again, they're a great team, and all credit, they deserve all the credit, but you include Orlando and where we are at the end results. Yeah, I think it was a successful season where there are some downs, and but I think that we actually were able to correct them and be able to grow for them. And so I think that all in all, yes, it was a successful year. So was that a two-part, or was that the?
Yeah, I think the other part I was asking about was like, how does this one rank compared to other seasons that you've had?
Yeah, it's up there. I definitely had a lot of fun, but for me, I enjoy winning. So I've won a couple supporter shields, a couple MLS Cups. So those seasons are definitely well above this one. But I think that I had a blast, and I loved coming in. I still love coming in every day, especially with this group. It's an amazing group, and you can see where we were able to turn it around, and the belief that we had in each other, and it's special. And so I'm extremely proud and grateful to be a part of that locker room, and to be a part of this group.
Thank you, Wanda. We'll take two more questions. This first one comes from Tyler Snipes of SBI Soccer. He wants to know if fans being able to or not being able to attend matches next season will play into your decision to play in 2021.
No, I love playing in front of fans. I talked about it earlier. I think that it's a crucial part of the game that definitely helps impact the game, and I sure hope we are. That's not going to be dictating factor if coming back or not, though.
Last question to Carlos Eustace.
Hi, Wondo. Congrats on keeping that record going, making it higher to reach. More than a question is what you had to say to all the fans. It's been a tough year in general for everybody in the world, in our lives, and the fact that you were able to come back and at least give these kind of games to your fans, to the people who follow you. You give them some happiness for a couple of minutes. What you had to say to all the people that follow you throughout this year.
Thank you, guys. We couldn't do without you. It's been an amazing ride, and again, the support. You guys are the wind behind our sails. So thank you guys for all that you do. Even having the cars when playing for our home games. The messages, all the support. The cars honking. Even the parade, kind of when we left, the support's been amazing. I can't thank you guys enough. You guys really helped drive us, and I think that there's a lot brighter days ahead, and so stick with these Quakes. We're again, brighter days are ahead. I like where everything is headed and this organization is going, and we have to continue to build on this base.
Wando, do you mind taking one more question?
Sure.
Thanks. Harold?
Thanks, Chris. I wanted to ask you one more thing about the game today. I heard it was the latest goal you've ever scored in your MLS career. Just what were those last 8 minutes in regulation? You had the shot that the goalie saved off the post. Maybe you thought that was kind of your last, and then they come down and score, and then kind of on the last attack, you get the equalizer. Just taking through those last few minutes of regulation.
Again, kind of just sums up our year. I had the ball come to me in the 89th minute, 90th minute. A great ball by Nick. Lost vision of it just for a split second. When I came back, I was just trying to get it on frame. I got to make sure I head that down. But it was a great save by Amelia. I was definitely extremely bummed, especially that they went down and scored, soon thereafter. So, just dying to make amends for that miss. And it was such a great ball by Christian. And such composure, actually, before that from Andy Rios. One, a great ball by Jackson, but he found Andy Rios about 25 yards out. And about 99% of the time, most players are just driving that ball and maybe not hitting frame. But he found that extra pass to Christian, and Christian served in a beautiful ball. And it was just an easy tap in. So, very grateful for just the play that we have.
All right. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Yep. Thank you very much, Wando, and congrats on the successful season.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
There is the captain, Chris Wondolowski, scoring today in the 97th minute to put his team into extra time and then to penalties.
Charles, I believe you're muted.
Well, that's always fun to be muted, isn't it? I apologize. He said, I don't think I'm done. I love it. I can't get enough of it. It's in me. It's in my blood. Definitely don't want to be a burden on the Quakes, and also see all the options. The pieces can be moved to keep this team to grow. Absolutely nothing discussed with Jesse, fully committed to putting everything into this year. Need to have some reevaluation. My personal life, where I want to be, and the direction of what this club is. So, lads, lots to discuss on Wando. Will he, won't he? Joel Soria, Jamon Moore, Alex Morgan here with me as well. Joel, the latest on Wando.
The latest on Wando is that he does want to come back for another year. In fact, he's not even really sure when his career is going to end. He wants to entertain, I want to say, all of his options. But most importantly, I think what we heard from today what we heard from Wondo today were words of accountability. I think that he put a torch right up to the feet of decision makers at Earthquakes Way, calling for these decision makers to have a plan on how they're going to improve. He quoted, "It's not a numbers game, it's not a minutes thing. To be honest, I want to see how we're going to win or what we're going to do to become a contender every single year." With that, I leave.
We can go ahead and jump right into questions.
Yeah, here's Shea Salinas. We'll hear from him. We will discuss Wondo.
Shay, that
Jay
was quite a
just a
game. Obviously, it didn't turn out the way you guys were expecting it would. But what was that roller coaster of an experience like for you? And what are your immediate thoughts coming out of the game?
Yeah, it was wild. For me, it was an extremely emotional game. Just not knowing how many more of these opportunities I'm going to have. So to be tied 2-2 when I was subbed off, I was excited for Cade because I know he can make a difference, but it was also really difficult because I now didn't have control. So it was emotional. But for us to fight back, and the cross from Christian and the goal from Wondo there at the end was just insane. So my heart still hurts a little bit from the game, but it was an awesome experience.
Thank you, Shay. We'll go over to Robert Jonas.
Thank you, and congratulations on the goal too. Your first playoffs goal, momentous moment for you personally. This has been this game sort of felt almost like the season in a lot of ways. Going down, coming back, going down, coming back, and then just a kind of a heartbreaking end there. You talk about the emotions and the uncertainty. In terms of on the field, though, what is it that you saw from your teammates tonight and from yourself especially that had you believing that there's still brighter days ahead for this club?
Man, we have so much character. This team, just the season we've had, what we've gone through, and then this game, you're right, kind of encompassed a lot of what happened this season. To go down a goal and then go up a goal and then down another goal and then to end with the PKs. But I think this team has a ton of character. We grew a lot as players individually. I think every player is better now than they were at the beginning of the season. And I think we're also better men. Like we support each other, we encourage each other. So we've developed something more than just becoming better soccer players, which has been cool. So man, I want to continue growing. I want to continue to see this team grow and this group grow. And I want to achieve more.
Thank you, Shay. We'll go to Alex Morgan next.
Hi, Shay. Congrats on the goal, but condolences on the loss. We just heard Chris Wondolowski say that he wants to see what this club is going to do in order to become playoff contenders every year. So I'm just wondering what you think that this organization, this ownership, the players, the coaches, everybody needs to do this offseason in order to build on the momentum that you guys have started this year.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with Wondo. I'd love to see us be more consistent, to not have that dry spell in the middle of the season, and then we'd easily make the playoffs and be one of the top contenders. As far as what we have to do, I mean, that's not in my control or my job. So I'm focused on how I can continue to improve as a player and continue to contribute. So we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Shay. We'll take two more questions, starting with Jamon Moore.
Hi, Shay. Congratulations again on the goal. Yeah, as you look forward to this offseason, though, we've talked about it before, right? You are a free agent. And when you look at this particular game and really the season as a whole, the three most consistent offensive players were yourself, Wondo, and Christian. You both factored very big into the offense tonight and the result of being what it was. What steps do you think this team needs to make in the offseason in order to take that next step? And how do you see yourself kind of fitting into that going forward?
I think as a team, each player has gotten better, like I said before. And I think that's important to not let that drop. I mean, who knows what this offseason is going to entail as far as when we start the season up. But I'm already looking forward to training and getting better and pulling young guys aside and training with them. As far as like the group, I think our mentality is good and we've learned a lot from this year. So I'm excited for that. And just going forward, there's so many uncertainties. Who knows what's going to happen, but I want to see us be a consistent playoff team. And I look back at my career, I was emotional tonight thinking about just missed opportunities. I haven't been in many playoff games, and tonight I felt like this was one we could have won, and I wanted to see how far we could go. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that.
Thank you, Shay. One last question from Joel Soria.
Hey, Shay, I personally thought that was an instant classic. I'd like to know how would you summarize that game? I mean, how did you experience that within the field, seeing Wondo, kind of fall on his knees and header that past Melia? How would you obviously have lived and breathed MLS for such a long time. How would you describe that game?
It was intense. It was an intense game. I think there were a lot of fouls, a lot of stoppages. Man, I honestly, when we were up 2-1, I thought we were going to go and win the game 4-1. But they came out and scored another quick corner kick goal. And what I loved about our team is we stayed composed and we kept with our game plan. We kept possession. We went side to side. Even in the 95th minute, whatever it was, we were still passing the ball around, found Christian wide and got a cross off for Wondo to score. Just incredible composure and ability to stick to a game plan. It was a classic. It was intense. It's something I'll never forget. It's a lot like the Open Cup game we had here a few years ago where we lost in penalties as well. Just a game I'll never forget.
All right. Thank you very much, Shay. And congrats on the great season. Have a safe flight home.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
All right. Thank you all for being with us this season, and we'll be in touch about end of season availability.
There you have Shea Salinas. He says that game will be something he'll never forget. He also alluded to the team having so much character, down a goal, up a goal, ton of character. Each player is better than they were in the beginning of the season, better than just becoming soccer players. And he says, I want to achieve more. The rest of the team is joining me, Joel, Alex, and Jamon here for commentary on Black and Azul Live post-game as we continue our coverage after the Earthquakes lose a first-round playoff game against Sporting KC, tied 3-3, and then lost in penalties 3-0. Shea Salinas always has a lot to say, always shares his heart with the fans and with the media as well. Alex, what did you make of what he had to say there?
I mean, look, Charles, I think that Shea Salinas is probably one of the, if not the most underrated player in this franchise for the last 5 years. There were times during like the 2017 season, last year even, when Shea Salinas wasn't a starter. And it wasn't clear whether he had a future with this team. But I think this season, and especially these last 5 or 6 games, he's shown just how important he is to this franchise. He's come up with some really big assists, really big goals that have that catapulted this team into the playoffs and kept them in this game. And look, he's a guy that has already indicated he wants to stay in San Jose. All other things being equal, there are obviously a lot of other considerations. He's talked to us before about cost of living in the Bay Area. For him, it might be more of a numbers game than it is for Wondo. The bottom line is he wants to stay in San Jose if that's possible, if that's feasible, if that's realistic for him. And I think Jesse Fiorinelli needs to honor that. I think Jesse Fioranelli needs to do everything he can to keep Chris Wondolowski, Shea Salinas, and Matias Almeyda in San Jose, because I just can't imagine what this club would look like without them, without Wondo and Shea. It feels like the team wouldn't have a heart, wouldn't have a soul. And same goes for Almeida. So Jesse Fioranelli, I think, has his work cut out for him, as does ownership. Wondo is calling. He says before he resigns, he wants to see a plan. He wants to see what the club is going to do to become contenders every year. And so that goes to Jesse Fioranelli to articulate that plan, and John Fisher, the owner, to back that plan with investment. And based on tonight's game, I think they'll do that. But it's still an open question at this point, what the future of this club looks like.
Cutbacks, crosses, Shea Salinas being in this lineup, a bit of a master class from Matias Almeida, putting him in this starting 11. We talked about it in the pre-show, Jamon.
Yeah, obviously Andy Rios, we understood was injured a bit and may not have been able to practice consistently with the team. And Almeida decided that he needed to go in a bit of a different direction. Play Carlos Fierro a little bit more centrally, allow Shea Salinas to start on the left. I think it was a well-deserved start by Shea. He's told us before he prefers the super sub role, that he gets a lot more pressure on him when he starts the game and doesn't feel like he can go at 100% anymore. I do think that super sub role fits him, but let's be honest. Shea Salinas has gone from somebody who with pace and whipping balls and has become, I think, a very complete soccer player, particularly in the last 2 years. That finish that he made on the goal tonight from Christian Espinoza was class. How many times have we seen well-finished balls from Shea Salinas now just in the past couple of years? He's been, I think, a much more complete soccer player at this phase of his career. And, you know, I know he's not quite at Wando's age and he's got a few years left, but I always worried about what was Shea Salinas without the pace that he had in his younger years going to be like. I think he's just a much more mature player, and balls that he probably would have scuffed, probably would have put over the goal in his younger years when he had a lot more, you know, energy. Now he's the type of player who he understands where the keeper's at. He understands where the defenders are at. He's able to make the right decisions in the right situations far more often. And he seems like a very essential player to come back. Now, can they get the numbers right for a player of his age and somebody who's mostly in a super sub role? That's a big question. But I think it's important to really kind of figure out a way to try to get Shea Salinas back, particularly if you're able to get Chris Wondolowski back. For me, like I've said before, they come as a package. I would want to see both of them returning together.
Yeah, our viewer, John J., who says here, Wondo and Shea are the franchise. I think that comment certainly worthy right there. And when the Earthquakes need players to step up and to give that little extra energy, that little extra oomph to always take them from being off the rails, because they have been off the rails quite a bit, and bring them back on the rails, it is always Shea Salinas and Chris Wondolowski. And we've talked about it quite a few times on this show, Joel.
Yeah, no, we've talked about that legacy, right? The fact that these two players really bail out the San Jose Earthquakes time and time again. I think the list is very long. The receipts are too much to track at this point. And obviously, focus shifts towards Wondo. It shifts towards Shea Salinas, and now it's also shifting towards Matias Almeyda. I think those three personalities are going to be under the microscope for the next couple of weeks, especially after the comments that Wondo and Almeida gave, as you know, we all reported here, and as I've been reporting on Twitter. Wondolowski was obviously a bit sour about, you know, losing tonight, and not only just that, but, you know, thinking back to how certain teams like Sporting Kansas City are frequently visitors of MLS Cup playoffs, whereas the San Jose Earthquakes have made it twice in the past 3 years. Or if we roll back the years a bit more, 3 times in the last 8, that is certainly not something that he wants to sign up for as his career is coming to a close. He mentions he's going to entertain other offers, and Matias obviously putting a big question mark next to his stay in San Jose. Obviously, the journalist in me wants to approach it from a very neutral standpoint. Now, the pundit in me and my intuition tells me that both of these figures are likely, very, very likely to remain in San Jose. And in fact, what they're doing is an off-field strategy that should be applauded. To put it simply, what they're doing is that they're putting tons of pressure, not on Jesse Fioranelli per se, but definitely on ownership, and in specific, John Fisher. I think that's exactly what's happening here, and I'll tell you why. From what I know, Matias and company are already finalizing a couple of player arrivals. They have a couple of players lined up, a few in South America. So they've already been working. They've been doing a lot of work on behind the curtains. And Wondo, of course, is probably going to entertain some offers. I'm sure that a plethora of MLS teams would be willing to bring him on board, similar to what we saw in the case of Bradley Wright Phillips, a prolific, legendary striker within MLS being booted by the New York Red Bulls last minute and finding a gracious home in LAFC. And sure, Chris wants to win. He wants to hoist some type of silverware. The sooner the better. We know that his career is obviously coming to a close, but he wants to do that. Now, the comments that he made today definitely put the ball in John Fisher's court. Whether or not he's going to even listen to what they had to say is certainly a different discussion. But if you're the San Jose Earthquakes fans, you really have to applaud the work that both Almeyda and Wondolowski did today after getting booted by Sporting Kansas City on the field in the 2020 MLS Cup playoffs. Commendable.
I think that's absolutely right, Joel. And I want to add that that's especially important because in September, in late September, in August and September, when this team was losing so much, we wondered who's accountable for this. Where is the accountability from John Fisher, from Jesse Fioranelli, from Matias Almeida, and from the players? And tonight they showed accountability. Chris Wondolowski and Matias Almeida stepped up. They put pressure on ownership. And I think that can only be a positive thing. That can only be a good team, a good thing for the health of this club and this organization.
Well, I mean, that's the direction that they want to take, right? If they really do want to be a perennial threat in the Western Conference, at least, then they have to follow this protocol. It's very simple, When you do and you crash out of playoffs, you have to obviously take a couple of days, to relax and to reflect. But you quickly have to get to work, and you don't get to work by planning, your next draft pick. No, I guess that's a bit of a jab there, but you really have to think about.
Jamon would disagree with that one. For
Jamon
sure.
would disagree. That's fine. We can talk about that later, but you have to think about where's the next Cristian Espinosa, right? The blueprint is there. I mean, it's there. As you mentioned, Jamon today, he's been worth every buck. Every cent, every penny. You got to do that 2 more times because I think we would all agree here, right, that Vako, Huzin, and Kasha have played their last games as San Jose Earthquake players. So, they have work cut out in front of them, but you can't cut corners. You can't take shortcuts here. You really, really have to try and double down on things that you've done in the past. We know that it's doable. We know that Fisher can open his pockets and look towards Europe and pick out a number 10 or a striker who is of the same pedigree or a better pedigree than Cristian Espinosa. It's there. They've proven they could do it. They should do it again. I think that will definitely benefit them.
And I think they have to be extra swift about it this year, particularly because the winter transfer window and the winter off season is so short. It's already almost Thanksgiving. The MLS season isn't going to wrap up till mid-December. The transfer window isn't going to open. They're going to have to get on top of their business really quickly. But as you see, I think the blueprint is there, and the blueprint is this. It's signing TAM level players on 1 or 2 year long loans. And if those loans pan out, then you re-sign them. That's exactly what they did with Judson. And he is one of the bedrocks, foundational pieces of this team. That's what they did with Cristian Espinosa. They then signed him to their club record transfer fee signing. And he was fantastic tonight. His cutbacks, his pace down the right was the reason they stayed in this game. And they did the same thing with Oswaldo. He's on a 2 year long loan deal, I believe. And so they can choose whether or not to extend that this season or if they want to sign him permanently. So that is the blueprint. It just needs to get the backing from ownership.
Just to offer a little bit more context on the Alanis discussion. So Chivas has until December 1st to call him back, right? Let's see. Chivas won yesterday. They move on to Liga MX Liguilla, and they have a little over a week to decide whether or not they want to bring back Alanis. I know that Chivas is somewhat thin in the defensive side of things, so that's a possibility. And Alanis has obviously shown that he's still capable of holding his own despite his age. Would be interesting to see him stay in San Jose for a second year. Would definitely benefit the team without a doubt.
Yeah, lots to talk about in the offseason as well. For everybody that's tuning in, this is Black and Azul Live Postgame episode number 74. And guess what? There will be an episode 75. We will do a full postseason wrap. Jamon has already been in the planning of this, writing chapter number 4.5 in his book. But Jamon, back to the match. We were chatting a little bit about how the Quakes were having a difficult time getting out of their half. And the fact that that link-up player, that number 10 player that we've chatted about time and time again on this show, and what Alex just alluded to in terms of off-season player signings. Your final thoughts, really, Jamon, on today, and then kind of what needs to happen moving forward with this club and where you see it right now from year 2019 into year 2020 with Matias Almeyda.
I feel like every single conversation we've had over the last 3 days with a player or a coach from San Jose Earthquakes has started to lay out the blueprint of how this needs to go. And there are things that we've been talking about already. And we saw it particularly in the first half of the game today when they had to bring somebody who wasn't a 10 and try to play them in the 10 and try to get out of the back. And Joel, I believe you tweeted, they can't even connect 3 passes right now. Jackson Ewell, in our pregame, we had a conversation with him and quotes. And he talked about how important it was that they were going to need to play through the press. This team looks the most vulnerable right now when they are counter-pressed and pressed by a team who knows how to do it. Sporting Kansas City knew how to do it, and they really put the screws to the Quakes early in the game today. That's because they don't have the right player in the middle of the pitch in that 10 role to be able to help them out in that situation. Carlos Fierro had to play a cameo today. He's not an answer. I don't believe Andy Rios is a full-time answer either. It's something that they really are going to have to figure out. And I believe when Chris Wondolowski and when Matias Almeyda say that management needs to make sure that this team is well-stocked for next season and for another run at the playoffs, what they mean is the quality needs to improve in a position like that. You have to be able to bring in the answer to that particular problem because it affected everything that happened in the game today. Now, fortunately, the Quakes have a Cristian Espinosa, and he was able to get in behind. And I believe, Charles, we talked about it yesterday on the phone a bit about how important it was that the Quakes play a game kind of like an LAFC and get in behind and give space for Christian Espinoza on the ball. Sure enough, goal comes from that, right? And and that's fine. The problem was you were pressed into a position of giving up corner kicks and, of course, giving up a goal off of a set piece, because that's been the story of this team all season. So they have to get better on set pieces. They have to look at that aerial defense. They have to figure out the right person. Someone suggested a player that was very Goodson-like, who's been able to do that for them in the past. They need to find that right person to be able to plug into particularly the central defense and shore that up for next season. If it's Alanis and Youngworth, we're going to face the same problems. As much as I like both of those players, and I think they're good players, unfortunately, it causes a lot of problems on the set pieces. So that has to be shored up. That's how Sporting Kansas City changed their season around, don't forget. And they need that 10. You have to be able to have that Godoy replacement on the ball, who's comfortable, who can play under pressure, to be able to find the right pass that unlocks a press and allows the team to play out, so that you can get the ball to a Christian Espinoza, so that you can get the ball to a Shea Salinas, so that you can get the ball onto the foot of a Chris Wondolowski or another starting 9. It's important that they figure these things out, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about this quite a bit. But what I'm happy to hear tonight is that Chris Wondolowski's not going to make a decision. We may not hear anything very soon at all until he hears what the plan of the team is. I think we're all waiting to hear what that plan looks like. Hopefully, not only will we have an end of season wrap-up show with conversations with players, but hopefully we'll get a chance to find out from Jesse Fiorinelli soon what the team's plans are in the offseason, like he shared with us last offseason.
Yeah, certainly well said, Jamon. We will definitely get into player personnel decisions and what the Quakes need to do in the offseason and where they're headed in this offseason, where they need to strengthen to go even further in the playoffs and contend for the trophy. Alex Morgan, you had said that's one of the most exciting, thrilling games you've ever seen of football today. And then hearing just from Shea Salinas and also from Chris Wondolowski, of course, a goal each of them had today. And then Matias Almeyda and certainly his future up for debate, and thinking about it clearly. Your kind of final prognosis on this evening.
I mean, Charles, whatever you want to say about this team, they are always entertaining. This season has been an incredible roller coaster for the club, with all of their highs in MLS's back tournament, all of the thrilling victories there, to just an awful month in September. A huge comeback in October, and then another whirlwind game tonight. I think that, like Jamon, I'm looking at that number 10 position. I think that in the first half, Sporting Kansas City pressured Judson and pressured Jackson Ewell really well. And so that's why the Quakes weren't able to build through the middle, because those two midfielders were just shut down. Now, later in that first half and in the second half, what they started to do is have long switches. They would switch the ball long to Espinoza. They bypass that midfield and get the ball to Espinoza on the wing for those cutbacks, and that's how they were able to succeed. But just imagine, I mean, if they had a number 10 who is able to link that play together. And I think, honestly, you can solve multiple problems in one go with one player. I'm thinking of a Diego Valeri type player who can link those passes in the midfield, who can score goals, and who has the aerial power to help at the back for set pieces. So I think they're going to have to look for number 10 in the offseason, and I think they're going to have to address that height issue aerially in the offseason. But I'm sure this offseason is going to move very quickly. We hope to be able to speak to Jesse Fiorinelli, as Jamon said, as Charles said, in addition to Matias Almeyda, and get some more clarity from Chris Wondolowski and Shea Salinas. Personally, I think this year has been incredibly difficult for everybody, for professional soccer players, for us, for everybody experiencing this pandemic. But for our show, I think it's also been a year of growth. And so I'm grateful for our crew here, grateful for all of the fans watching, supporting the show, everybody being a part of the Quakes community. And so I take away that from this season as well, how this team and how this community was able to come together and support the Quakes this year, despite
everything else going on in the world. So for that, I'm grateful for everybody here.
Thanks, Alex. Sam Mohan Lewis writes, when will the season wrap up episode be? I think we should let everybody enjoy the next week. Just take some time off, and then we will get back to you. We'll notify you. So if you follow any of us on Twitter and the Black and Azul on Twitter, just like to remind you to like and to subscribe. Get a friend, get a family member to like and subscribe as well. Joel, moving on to you, and 90th minute of our show here, or should I say 80th minute of our show. Matias Almeyda comes into this Earthquakes team, the 2018 year rock bottom. 2019 they were competitive, and they showed some streaks, and they had many wins in the summer, and then moving into the fall, they just couldn't quite get over to the line and had a really poor run of form, but they were competitive up until the last day. This team, again, streaky, good in the beginning, really had a difficult middle part of the season, and then ended here on a high, getting into this game and being very competitive, and almost nicked it. Right at the end there, almost nicked it, and we're very much in it. Where do you see the progression from 2019 to 2020 under Almeyda? Do you think he has gotten the best out of these players? Is there still more to follow? What needs to happen? I know I've just hurled a lot at you there, but kind of wanting to all package it in there for you as well.
Look, as much as one can make the case that Almeyda has, yes, gotten the most that he can out of this current squad, what we know is that the current squad that makes the San Jose Earthquakes at the moment isn't going to be the same in 2021. And above anything else, I think that what the Quakes desperately need next year is consistency. It's consistency, it's consistency, and it's consistency. No, I'm convinced that this season took a lot of years out of a lot of these personalities within the franchise. So much to bear, so much to deal with, so much to struggle with internally. We talk about the highs and lows. We talk about the roller coaster analogy. Well, let's stay on the roller coaster analogy. What human being can resist being on this 80-mile-per-hour roller coaster on a never-ending loop, right? It's physically impossible to do so. And the Quakes aren't the exception here. They can't continue living this way. I understand that a lot of it had to do with external factors, COVID, civil unrest, etc. I get it. We were there. We've all been in this together. I totally understand. But Shea was actually speaking about this, right? The fact that there are, glaring holes in which the Quakes just go absent, and they lose identity, and they come across as a team that is very much incapable. I mean, we were very critical of the San Jose Earthquakes that we saw in September of this year, and deservingly so. They were bad, but as you mentioned, they ended on a high. And I talked about how they were able to climb up this very steep hill, similar to Sporting Kansas City in a way, at a lesser degree. But the Quakes were able to propel their way forward despite all the junk being thrown at them, and a lot of junk that they were also creating themselves. But consistency next season is going to be crucial. They have to get that down. And how do you do so, you might ask? Well, again, I go back to off-season reinforcements. And it's not about throwing, bags of money at the transfer market. It's about doing it knowledgeably. It's about doing it strategically. I talk about Cristian Espinosa as being the DP example. I think that they can obviously follow that to probably a lesser degree, but stay there, stay on that pathway. And in addition to that, bring more of the Jutsins, of the world into this team. Go out for more Marcos Lopez's, risk and gamble a little bit on 18 and 19-year-olds from South America who were probably getting noticed by certain teams in Europe, lower level teams in Europe, or by bigger teams in their domestic leagues, but aren't really being sought out after in a very serious way. I think if they do that, they can set themselves up to be successful in 2021. Again, just to be crystal clear, I do not see Matias Almeyda leaving San Jose next year or from now to the start of next season. I think he remains as the coach in San Jose. And I want to believe that Shea and Wondo also come back, although obviously we're going to have to wait for all of that. But again, just to go back, consistency, Charles. It comes down to consistency. If this team could be as good as they were during, a period of MLS's back, if they can be as good as they were to close the season, I think that they could be an outright contender in the West. And as we all know, that's where the San Jose Earthquakes want to be.
I agree with you, Joel, and I agree with Jamon and Alex as well. And you could see the progression, I think, from 2019 into 2020, getting into the playoffs. And now I think the ball is in the court of the club to be able to secure the signings of Shea Salinas and Chris Wondolowski, at least for another year, and then look into getting a number 10 player, a link-up player, a couple other special attacking players, and also to add into the midfield engine room, because you can't keep going along with just Jackson Ewell and just Judson. One of them goes down. Big problem for this Earthquakes team. I think the defensive part of the side of the ball has been worked out. I think you add maybe another center back here or there, but I certainly think they're kind of solidified in that position. And of course, another striker that can really bang in some goals as well. I want to thank everybody for tuning into our program, Black and Azul, this season and last season as well, especially during these very tough times, and inviting us into your home or wherever you are. If you're watching it in a car, or you're watching it in a public park, watching it with your family, watching it with your loved one, it's important that we stick together in a community aspect as well. We don't just offer this show just because we want to just report on the Earthquakes. We want to create a community, and we really are proud of this show and what we've put together, episode after episode, year after year. Make sure that you wear your masks. Wash your hands. Obviously, there is a spike in COVID right now. And if you're going to be celebrating Thanksgiving or meeting with other folks, please be careful. Please be safe. Wanted to throw out the link again for a fundraiser organized by Victor Muma Bernardes for Hurricane Ada. He has organized a GoFundMe page with Wendy Salgado for those affected by Hurricane Ada in Honduras. Let's not forget that we also are a global community. Just less than about $1,000, or excuse me, just over $1,000 to go on this goal. You can find this webpage on sjearthquakes.com by taking a look and finding this as well. But everybody, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for spending your Sunday with us here, Black and Azul. A long, long game. It felt like a book has been written, as you had said, Alex. So very grateful, very thankful for the rest of the team here. Aaron Sholl is our executive producer. Jamon Moore, Alex Morgan, Joel Soria, Jason Sholl is our executive producer, and our director. My name is Charles Wollin. Again, thank you so much. Take care. Stay safe, everybody, and good night.